All right, so you've been digging into some fascinating stuff about some U.S. states.
Yeah,
Colorado, Delaware, Missouri, Oregon, and Utah.
quite a mix.
That's quite a mix. We're talking
Nowadays.
history, culture, food, even some quirky slang.
Yeah.
We're here to help you pull out those hidden gems
Yeah.
and really understand what makes each state tick.
I think it's so interesting to see how each state
Yeah.
really tells a different chapter in the American story.
Right. Yeah.
And we'll be looking for those threads that connect them too, those shared experiences that have shaped their identities.
I'm ready to dive in. I'm especially curious about that Keep Portland Weird thing in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
We'll definitely get to that. But first, let's start with a state that's known for its breathtaking landscapes and its pioneering spirit, Colorado.
Okay.
It's nicknamed the Centennial State because it joined the Union exactly 100 years after the Declaration of Independence in 1876.
Okay, so Colorado has that new frontier vibe.
Right.
Right, but it's also got this reputation for being pretty progressive. How do those two things go together?
Well, it's interesting how those seemingly contrasting elements actually intertwine.
Yeah.
Colorado's history is deeply rooted in westward expansion and the allure of gold.
Okay.
The Pikes Peak Gold Rush of 1858 brought a wave of settlers seeking fortune, leading to the development of boomtowns like Leadville.
Yeah.
That independent, risk-taking spirit is still very much alive today.
So you're saying those rugged individualists who went looking for gold are kind of like the ancestors of today's craft brewers and tech entrepreneurs.
Exactly. That same drive to forge your own path, to create something new.
Right.
It runs through Colorado's history. Think about those craft breweries,
Yeah.
often started by people who are passionate about beer and willing to take a chance on their own vision.
Mm-hmm.
They're not afraid to experiment, to push boundaries.
Yeah.
It's that same spirit that led Colorado to become the first state to legalize recreational cannabis.
And it's not just about the beer, right? Colorado is known for its incredible outdoor scene.
Oh, of course.
You've got those iconic 14ers, those mountain peaks over 14,000 feet that draw hikers from all over.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's Rocky Mountain National Park, Garden of the Gods.
Beautiful.
It's like a postcard come to life. But I'm guessing there's more to it than just pretty scenery.
You're right.
Yeah.
Those landscapes have shaped the state's identity in profound ways.
Yeah.
Think about the 1976 Winter Olympics.
Okay.
Denver actually declined to host them.
Wow.
It was a controversial decision at the time, but it reflected a growing awareness of the environmental impact of such a massive event.
Okay.
Colorado chose to protect its natural treasures,
Yeah.
even if it meant losing out on a prestigious opportunity.
That's a pretty bold move.
It was.
It makes you wonder, what would Colorado be like today if they had hosted those Olympics?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have seen a huge economic boom, but perhaps at the expense of their natural environment?
Right.
Who knows?
And speaking of taking risks, there's that Colorado delicacy that's not for the faint of heart. Rocky Mountain oysters.
Ah, yes. The deep-fried bull testicles.
Yeah.
It's definitely a unique culinary experience that speaks to Colorado's adventurous spirit.
Yeah.
Not everyone's cup of tea, of course.
Right.
But it's become a part of the state's cultural fabric.
I think I'll stick to the craft beer for now.
Probably a good choice.
But speaking of history,
Okay.
let's shift gears and head east to Delaware,
Okay.
the first state.
All right.
What makes it so special?
Delaware holds a unique place in American history as the first state to ratify the Constitution in 1787.
Wow.
It's a small state geographically, but its impact has been significant.
So they were the trailblazers, the first ones to say yes to the Constitution.
Exactly.
I bet that independent streak runs deep in Delaware.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you see it in their unique traditions, too,
Like what?
like the Return Day Parade in Georgetown. After elections, they symbolically bury the hatchet to promote unity and move forward together.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in the heat of political battles, we can find common ground.
That's a refreshing idea, especially in today's political climate.
I agree.
But I also heard that Delaware played a key role in some pretty dark chapters of American history,
Yeah,
like the Underground Railroad.
that's right.
Yeah.
Despite its small size, Delaware was a crucial stop on the route to freedom for enslaved people escaping from the South.
Right.
Its location on the border between North and South made it a battleground for the soul of the nation.
And of course, we can't talk about Delaware without mentioning its most famous resident, President Joe Biden.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Biden's long-standing connection to Delaware speaks to the state's political significance.
Yeah.
He often refers to his roots there, his upbringing in a working-class family.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in a small state, you can rise to the highest office in the land.
From a small state with a big impact to a state that wants to be shown the evidence.
Okay.
Missouri, the show-me state.
I love that one.
Why are Missourians so skeptical?
Well, it's not necessarily about being skeptical. It's more about being pragmatic.
Okay.
Missourians have a reputation for being down-to-earth, practical people.
Right.
They want to see the proof before they believe something.
Okay.
It's a state that values common sense and straightforwardness.
And that practical spirit is reflected in their history, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Missouri was a major hub during westward expansion.
Yeah.
The Oregon Trail and the Pony Express both started there.
Exactly. Missouri was the gateway to the West.
Right.
It was a place where people from all walks of life converged, bringing their hopes, dreams, and a willingness to work hard.
Yeah.
It was a melting pot of cultures and ideas, a place where the future was being forged.
And speaking of forging something new, get this. Missouri is considered the birthplace of not one, not two, but three major American music genres.
Wow.
Ragtime, Kansas City jazz, and St. Louis blues.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. What do you think it is about Missouri that made it such fertile ground for musical innovation?
It's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that blend of cultures, that convergence of influences at the crossroads of the nation.
Right.
You have the European influences,
Right.
the African-American traditions, the spirit of the frontier.
Right.
It all came together in Missouri to create something truly unique and lasting.
And then there's the barbecue.
Oh, yes.
I hear there's a bit of a rivalry going on between Kansas City and St. Louis.
Oh, absolutely. It's a friendly rivalry, of course.
Right.
But both cities are fiercely proud of their barbecue traditions.
So what's the difference?
Well, Kansas City is known for its sweet, tomato-based sauce,
Okay.
while St. Louis boasts a tannier, vinegar-based sauce.
Oh, interesting.
It's a debate that's been raging for decades,
I bet.
and there's no clear winner.
Sounds like a delicious dilemma.
It is
I guess the only way to settle it is to try both.
the only way.
But let's not forget about the other iconic landmark in Missouri. The one that symbolizes that westward expansion we were talking about.
Yeah.
The Gateway Arch in St. Louis.
It's an incredible structure, a testament to human ingenuity and the spirit of exploration.
Yeah.
Standing on the banks of the Mississippi River, it's a reminder of the journeys people took,
Right.
the risks they faced, and the dreams they pursued.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful symbol of American history.
And speaking of journeys and dreams,
Okay.
how about we head west to Oregon, a state that embraces its own unique way of doing things?
Oh, I like them.
It's where you'll find that Keep Portland Weird slogan that I was so curious about.
Right.
What's the story there?
Well, it's more than just a slogan. It's a reflection of Oregon's independent spirit and its embrace of individuality.
Okay.
Portland, in particular, has a reputation for being quirky, unconventional, and a little bit offbeat.
Yeah.
And they wear that badge with pride.
So it's not just about being weird for the sake of being weird.
No, not at all.
It's about celebrating individuality, being true to yourself.
Exactly. And that spirit is evident everywhere you look in Oregon, from the food cart culture in Portland,
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
with its incredible variety and culinary creativity,
Right.
to the iconic Voodoo Donut, with its over-the-top flavors and whimsical designs. Oregonians aren't afraid to be different, to stand out from the crowd.
And speaking of standing out, Oregon's natural beauty is in a league of its own.
It really is.
You've got Crater Lake, formed in the caldera of a collapsed volcano,
Beautiful.
and Cannon Beach, with its iconic haystack rock rising from the surf.
Yeah.
It's a nature lover's paradise.
Oregon's landscapes are truly breathtaking,
Yeah.
and they've played a significant role in shaping the state's identity.
Okay.
The Oregon Trail, which brought thousands of settlers to the region in the 19th century, is a testament to that pioneering spirit,
Right.
that desire to forge a new life in a new land.
But that journey wasn't always easy, was it?
No, definitely not.
I'm thinking about the Vanport flood in 1948,
Oh.
a devastating event that reshaped Portland's development and demographics.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that progress isn't always a straight line,
Right.
and that even in a place as beautiful as Oregon, there's a history of hardship and resilience.
You're right.
Yeah.
The Vanport flood was a tragedy that exposed the social and racial inequalities of the time,
Right.
but it also revealed the strength and compassion of the community as they rebuilt their lives and their city.
It's like a microcosm of the American story itself, a story of triumphs and tragedies, of progress and setbacks.
Exactly.
And speaking of stories, how about we head to our final destination, a state with a unique history and culture all its own?
Okay, Utah.
Utah is a fascinating place, a state that has often been misunderstood or stereotyped.
Yeah.
But it's a place of remarkable beauty, strong values, and a rich history shaped by the Mormon pioneers who settled there in the mid-19th century.
And speaking of those pioneers, Utah has its own holiday, Pioneer Day, on July 24th to celebrate their arrival in the Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah. It's a testament to the enduring legacy of that journey and the values those pioneers brought with them: hard work, faith, and community.
And those values are still very much evident in Utah today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a state with a strong sense of community, a deep respect for tradition, and a commitment to family.
And they also have a pretty unique slang, right?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
heard they use words like sloughing for skipping school and fetch as a substitute for other less savory words.
That's right. Utah's slang is a reflection of its culture, a blend of Western influences and the unique vocabulary of the Mormon community.
Yeah.
It adds a certain charm to the state's character.
So we've covered 4 states so far: Colorado, Delaware, Missouri, and Oregon.
Wow, that's a lot.
Each one unique, each
Yeah.
one with its own story to tell,
It's true.
but they're also connected in ways that I'm just starting to grasp.
It's fascinating to see how those connections emerge, isn't it? We've seen the spirit of independence and innovation,
Yeah.
the impact of westward expansion, the importance of place and tradition,
Right.
and we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
I'm excited to see what other connections we uncover as we dive deeper into Utah.
Me too.
And I'm especially curious about that famous Utah tradition of putting whipped cream and fruit in their Jell-O.
Ah, yes, the Jell-O phenomenon. We'll definitely have to explore that.
Okay.
It's a quirky detail that reveals a lot about Utah's culinary culture and its unique sense of fun.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Utah's Jell-O obsession is definitely one for the books, but, it's more than just a sweet treat. It actually reflects the state's history and values.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How does Jell-O connect to Utah's history?
Well, think about it. Jell-O is all about bringing people together.
Okay.
It's often served at family gatherings, potlucks, community events.
Right.
It's a symbol of hospitality and togetherness values that are deeply ingrained in Utah's culture, especially within the Mormon community.
That makes sense. It's like sharing a plate of Jell-O is a way of saying, welcome, you're part of the family.
Exactly. And it's not just about the Jell-O itself, it's about the effort that goes into making it.
Right. Those layered creations with the whipped cream and fruit, they represent a certain level of care and attention. It's a way of showing love and appreciation for the people you're sharing it with.
So it's a culinary tradition with a deeper meaning. That's fascinating. But let's move beyond the dessert table and talk about some of Utah's other claims to fame. I know it's home to some of the most stunning national parks in the country.
Oh, absolutely. Utah's natural beauty is truly awe-inspiring. You've got Arches National Park with its over 2,000 natural sandstone arches, each one a testament to the power of erosion and the passage of time.
Yeah.
And then there's Bryce Canyon with its otherworldly hoodoos, those tall, thin, spire-shaped rock formations that seem to defy gravity.
I've seen pictures, but I can only imagine what it's like to actually stand there and take it all in.
It's an experience that stays with you. And then there's Zion National Park with its towering red cliffs and the Virgin River carving its way through the canyon. It's a place of incredible biodiversity, from the desert tortoises to the California condors soaring overhead. It sounds like Utah's landscape is a mix of extremes, from the delicate beauty of wildflowers like the sago lily, which sustained those early Mormon pioneers, to the ruggedness of these canyons and arches.
You hit the nail on the head. Utah is a land of contrasts, where you can find both serenity and adventure, both fragility and resilience. And speaking of extremes, let's not forget about the Bonneville Salt Flats, that vast, otherworldly expanse of salt that stretches as far as the eye can see.
The Bonneville Salt Flats, that's where they hold those land speed races, right? It's hard to imagine a more dramatic backdrop for such a high-octane event.
It's truly a unique landscape, and it's a testament to the geological forces that have shaped this region over millions of years.
So we've talked about Utah's Jell-O, its slang, its national parks, and even its salt flats, but I feel like we're still missing a piece of the puzzle, something that ties it all together.
You're right. We need to talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the beehive in the state. The influence of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, often referred to as the Mormon Church.
Okay, that's a sensitive topic, but I think it's important to address it. How has the Mormon Church shaped Utah's identity?
Well, it's impossible to talk about Utah without acknowledging the profound impact of the Mormon Church.
Yeah.
It's been a driving force in the state's history, culture, and even its economy. The Mormon pioneers who settled here in the 1840s were fleeing religious persecution, and they created a community based on faith, hard work, and self-reliance. Those values are still very much evident in Utah today.
So it's more than just a religious influence, it's a cultural influence that permeates every aspect of life in Utah.
Exactly. It's reflected in the state's architecture with the iconic Salt Lake Temple as a symbol of faith and community. It's evident in the state's social policies, which often reflect traditional values, and it's even present in the state's unique slang, with its focus on wholesome language and avoiding profanity.
It sounds like the Mormon Church is more than just a religious institution in Utah. It's woven into the fabric of the state itself.
That's a great way to put it, and it's important to remember that the Mormon Church is not monolithic. There's a diversity of perspectives and experiences within the church, just as there's diversity within Utah as a whole.
It's a reminder that even in a state that seems homogenous on the surface, there's always more to the story. And speaking of stories, I think it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. We've explored 5 states now: Colorado, Delaware, Missouri, Oregon, and Utah. Each one unique, each one with its own personality and its own contribution to the American tapestry. But what are the threads that connect them? What are the common themes that emerge?
That's a great question, and it's one that I've been pondering as we've journeyed through these states. One theme that stands out is the spirit of exploration and innovation. We saw it in Colorado's gold rush history, its embrace of outdoor recreation, and its pioneering spirit in legalizing cannabis. We saw it in Delaware's willingness to be the first to ratify the Constitution, to forge a new path for the nation. We saw it in Missouri's role as a gateway to the West, a melting pot of cultures and ideas. We saw it in Oregon's embrace of individuality, its quirky culture, and its commitment to environmental sustainability. And we see it in Utah's history of pioneers forging a new life in a harsh landscape driven by faith and a vision of a better future.
It's amazing to see how that spirit of exploration and innovation manifests itself in different ways depending on the state's history, geography, and culture. It's like the same seed planted in different soils, producing different fruits, but all sharing the same DNA.
That's a beautiful analogy, and it speaks to the resilience and adaptability of the American spirit.
Another theme that's emerged is the importance of place and tradition.
Absolutely. Each of these states has a deep connection to its land, its history, and its cultural heritage. We see it in the way they celebrate their local specialties, whether it's green shell in Colorado, peach pie in Delaware, barbecue in Missouri, craft beer and donuts in Oregon, or Jell-O in Utah. These foods are more than just sustenance. They're expressions of identity, of belonging, of a shared history.
It's like each bite tells a story that connects people to the land, to their ancestors, and to each other.
And it's a story that continues to evolve as new generations add their own chapters, their own flavors, and their own interpretations. It's a reminder that tradition is not static. It's a living, breathing thing that changes and adapts over time.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. It's not just about preserving the past. It's about understanding how the past shapes the present and influences the future.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to do here, to provide you with a deeper understanding of these states, their complexities, their contradictions, and their contributions to the American story.
And speaking of contradictions, one thing that struck me is the tension between unity and diversity that we see playing out across these states. On the one hand, there's this idea of America as a melting pot, where different cultures blend together to create something new. But on the other hand, we see these strong regional identities, these distinct cultures that persist even in a globalized world.
That's a key tension that's been present throughout American history.
Wow.
It's reflected in the states we've been exploring. We see states like Colorado and Oregon that are known for their progressive values and independent spirits, while states like Delaware and Missouri hold on to their historical legacies and traditional ways of life. And then there's Utah, with its unique culture shaped by the Mormon pioneers.
It's like each state is a microcosm of America itself, a laboratory where different ideas and values are being tested, where the boundaries of what it means to be American are constantly being pushed and redefined.
And that's what makes it so exciting. It's a dynamic process and a never-ending conversation.
And it's a conversation that we as individuals are all a part of, whether we realize it or not. Our own lives and experiences contribute to the shaping of our communities and our nation.
That's a powerful thought. And it reminds us that even seemingly small actions can have a ripple effect.
So what can we learn from exploring these states? What insights can we take away from this deep dive?
Well, for one thing, it reminds us that America is not a monolithic entity. It's a collection of diverse communities, each with its own history, culture, and values.
And that diversity is something to be celebrated, not feared.
Absolutely. It's what makes America unique and vibrant.
But it also reminds us that we're all connected, that we share a common history and a common destiny.
And that despite our differences, we can find common ground and work together to build a better future for all Americans.
Well said. It seems like we've stumbled upon some pretty profound insights here, all thanks to these seemingly random facts about U.S. states.
It just goes to show that there's always something new to learn, even from the most familiar topics. And that's the beauty of a deep dive.
I couldn't agree more now. Before we move on to our final thoughts, let's take a quick recap of some of the most surprising and memorable facts we've uncovered.
Sounds good. It always helps to solidify the knowledge and spark new connections.
First up, Colorado, the centennial state known for its stunning natural beauty, its love for craft beer, and its surprising rejection of the Winter Olympics in 1976.
Oh.
And those Rocky Mountain oysters, definitely a memorable detail.
Next, we traveled to Delaware, the first state, where we learned about their unique return day tradition of burying the hatchet after elections and their claim to fame as the home state of President Joe Biden.
Then it was on to Missouri, the Show Me State, where we explored the triple threat of musical heritage, ragtime, Kansas City jazz, and St. Louis blues. And who could forget the delicious rivalry between Kansas City and St. Louis barbecue styles?
From there, we journeyed to Oregon, where we embraced the Keep Portland Weird spirit, marveled at the natural wonders of Crater Lake and Cannon Beach, and delved into the state's rich history shaped by the Oregon Trail and the devastating Vanport flood.
And finally, we landed in Utah, the Beehive State, home to the iconic Golden Spike, the breathtaking landscapes of Arches and Zion National Parks, and of course the state's infamous love for Jell-O, a surprisingly insightful culinary tradition.
It's amazing how much ground we've covered in such a short time, and it's just a glimpse into the richness and diversity of these 5 states.
Exactly, and we encourage you to continue exploring. Each of these states has even more to offer.
Think about what stood out to you most. What sparked your curiosity? What questions do you have? That's where the real deep dive begins, your own personal exploration.
It's like we've been given a taste of each state, just enough to whet our appetites and make us want to explore more. I know I'm already planning a road trip in my head, hitting up those national parks in Utah, and maybe even trying some of that famous fry sauce.
I highly recommend the fry sauce. It's a perfect blend of sweet and savory, and it goes great with everything from burgers and fries to onion rings and chicken nuggets.
Okay, you've convinced me, but before I book my flights, I'm curious about something. We've talked about these states as individual entities, but they're all part of a larger story, the story of the United States. How do their individual narratives fit into the grand scheme of American history and culture?
That's a question that historians and cultural anthropologists grapple with all the time. It's like trying to understand a tapestry by examining each individual thread. Each state has its own unique history and culture, but together they create something larger than themselves, a complex and ever-evolving national identity.
So it's like each state is a brushstroke contributing to a larger work of art, but what happens when those brushstrokes clash? We've seen some pretty stark contrasts between these states, from their political leanings to their social values. How do we reconcile those differences within the context of a unified nation?
That's the challenge, isn't it? America's always been a nation of contradictions, a place where different ideas and values coexist, sometimes harmoniously, sometimes in conflict. But that's also what makes it so dynamic and so fascinating. It's a constant process of negotiation, of finding ways to bridge those divides and create a more perfect union.
And that process isn't always easy, is it? We've seen throughout history how those differences can lead to conflict and division, but I think we've also seen examples of how those differences can be a source of strength, how they can lead to innovation and progress.
Exactly. It's all about finding the balance, recognizing that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. It's about embracing the idea that we can learn from each other, that we can grow and evolve as a nation by acknowledging and respecting our differences.
It's like a good jazz band, right? You've got different instruments, different rhythms, different melodies, but when they come together in harmony, they create something truly magical.
That's a perfect analogy. It's about finding the common ground, the shared humanity that binds us together, even when we disagree on the details.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to remember about these 5 states and about America as a whole?
I think the most important takeaway is that America is a work in progress. It's a nation that's constantly evolving, constantly striving to live up to its ideals, and it's a nation that needs all of us to participate in that process, whether it's Voting, volunteering, engaging in thoughtful conversations, or simply being open to different perspectives. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of this country.
And that future is built on the foundation of the past. By understanding the stories of these states, their triumphs, and their struggles, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexities of American history and culture.
And that understanding can help us navigate the challenges we face today. It can inspire us to be more compassionate, more understanding, and more engaged citizens.
Well said. It seems like we've come full circle from exploring individual states to reflecting on the meaning of America itself. It's been an incredible journey, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed the ride.
Me too. It's been a pleasure diving deep into these fascinating topics with you.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring. These 5 states are just a starting point. There are countless other stories waiting to be discovered, countless other perspectives waiting to be heard.
So keep digging, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. You never know what treasures you might find.
And if you ever find yourself craving some fry sauce or green chili, you know where to find us.
Until next time, happy exploring.